At our gender reveal, my husband's mother snatched the mic and announced, "We're moving in after the birth, it's non-negotiable." My husband nodded. I laughed bitterly and said, "Then you'll need another nursery because I won't be there." Silence fell like a hammer. I'm Callie, 34. Grew up in Indianapolis. I work as a technical writer, one of those behind-the-scenes jobs no one ever hears about but suddenly becomes essential when a product manual makes zero sense. It's stable, quiet work, and honestly, it's how I like my life. Structured, straightforward, predictable. My husband, well, now my soon-to-be ex-husband, is Nolan. We met in Bloomington, Indiana, back in our college days. He was getting his architecture degree. I was an English major with a minor in coffee addiction. Nolan had this boyish charm about him. He wasn't loud or flashy. He was just present, thoughtful. He remembered weird things, like how I always picked the crusty corner of brownies, or that I hated the smell of wetwood. He made me feel seen in a way no one ever had. We moved to Denver 6 years ago for his job. He got hired by a mid-sized architecture firm, and I kept doing my work remotely. The first few years were solid, nothing fancy, but happy. We weren't that couple on Instagram with matching hiking gear and a golden retriever named Toast. We were normal, private. He built things, I wrote things. We made pancakes on Sundays and argued over the thermostat like every other married couple. Kids were always a maybe one day thing. I didn't grow up dreaming about motherhood. My mom did it alone after my dad split when I was just a baby. She never remarried. She worked 2 jobs and was always exhausted, and as a kid, I swore I'd never live that life. I wanted freedom, autonomy. But somewhere between 30 and 32, something shifted. I started noticing kids more, noticing moms. I'd find myself standing a little longer in the baby aisle at Target. Nolan noticed too. One night, we were lying in bed, half watching the Great British Bake Off for the millionth time, and I turned to him and said, "You ever think maybe we could do it?" He looked over at me, eyes soft. "Be parents." "Yeah." He smiled. "Only with you." And that was that. We weren't actively trying, but we stopped not trying. 8 months later, I peed on a stick and sat on the bathroom floor shaking. It was positive. I told Nolan that night, just as he walked in the door. He was sweaty and tired, carrying a rolled-up blueprint tube under one arm. "Hey," I said. "Hey, babe. What's up?" I held out the test with both hands, like I was presenting a sacred object. "We're doing this." He blinked, then grinned, then dropped the blueprint and picked me up in a bear hug. "I'm gonna be a dad," he whispered into my neck. Holy crap. I'm gonna be a dad. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't just getting a baby. I was getting Darlene too. Nolan's mom was a force. Think Martha Stewart on espresso with a controlling streak and a penchant for unsolicited advice. She lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which meant we only saw her on holidays or if she made a random drop-in road trip. But once the pregnancy news spread, she ramped up. We started getting packages, books about parenting, bottles of prenatal vitamins, hand-knit booties in various neutral tones. Then she started calling. Every day. "How are you feeling? Have you picked a doula yet? I saw a YouTube video about baby cranial shaping. Have you looked into that?" I tried to be polite. I'd say, "Thanks, Darlene," or "I'll look into it," and then roll my eyes so hard I gave myself headaches. I figured it was just excitement. Grandparent enthusiasm. But I kept telling Nolan, "You need to put some boundaries up. I love that she cares, but I need space." He'd always reply, "She means well. She's just old school." But something in his tone was always off, like he didn't want to poke the bear. About 3 months in, Darlene drove down just to see how we were nesting. I was working in my office nook when she let herself in with a spare key I didn't know she had. I came out and there she was, rearranging our pantry. "Darlene." "Oh, hi sweetie," she chirped, not even pausing. "You really should keep the grains up higher, helps keep the ants out." I stared. "You, how did you get in?" "Oh, Nolan gave me a key years ago. Just for emergencies." I told Nolan that night, "She needs to ask before coming in. That's a huge invasion of privacy." He rubbed his temples. "It's not a big deal, Cal. She's just trying to help." "Yeah? Then she can help from Wyoming." He looked like he wanted to argue, but instead he kissed my forehead and said, "I'll talk to her." Spoiler, he didn't. When we hit the 5-month mark, we planned a gender reveal. I wasn't big on the whole social media spectacle, but my sister Rowan talked me into something low-key. We reserved a picnic shelter at Sloan's Lake. Just family and a few friends. cupcakes filled with either pink or blue icing. I remember the morning like it was yesterday. I was in the kitchen, mixing batter, singing along to Fleetwood Mac when Nolan came in holding 2 mugs of tea. "You nervous?" he asked. "Excited, mostly. Nervous you'll be disappointed if it's a girl." He laughed. "Kelly, I don't care if it's a girl, a boy, or a tiny alien. As long as it's ours." That was the last time I really believed him. The party was perfect. Warm air, happy faces, the lake shimmering behind us. Nolan was laughing with his best friend Milo while I snapped pictures of Rowan hanging up a little boy or girl banner. Darlene showed up in a tailored blue and pink blouse like she was co-hosting. Then came the cupcakes. Everyone bit in at the same time. Blue. A chorus of cheers went up. Someone popped a confetti cannon. Nolan scooped me up and spun me around, both of us laughing. That's when Darlene picked up the mic we'd rented for announcements. She cleared her throat. "I just want to say," she began, her voice sweet and sharp like polished glass, "Nolan and I have been talking, and after the baby is born, we've decided we'll be moving in for a few months to help with the transition. It's non-negotiable." Laughter died. Balloons floated off into stunned silence. I turned to Nolan. He wasn't shocked. He nodded. He nodded. My mouth went dry. I laughed, short, bitter. It wasn't funny. Not at all. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when everything inside you breaks at once. "Then you'll need another nursery," I said slowly, voice shaking. "Because I won't be there." And just like that, silence fell like a hammer. No one said a word. You know that awful dream where you're naked in a room full of people and no one tells you, but everyone knows? That's what it felt like. Except I wasn't naked, I was betrayed. And not by a stranger, not even by Darlene. By Nolan. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for an apology or even clarification. I turned, walked past the cupcake table, grabbed my keys from the folding chair, and headed straight for the parking lot. "Kelly!" Nolan shouted behind me. "Wait, what are you doing?" "Leaving," I said, not turning around. He caught up to me right as I reached the car. "Can we just talk?" he said, breathless, one hand gripping the car door. I stared at him. "Talk now? Now that your mother planned my postpartum recovery for me like I'm some goddamn home renovation. She's just offering help." She thought what? That she gets to move in? That I'll just smile and bake muffins while she tells me how to raise my kid. Nolan looked exhausted already. "We talked about it, Cal. You said you were worried about doing it alone. I said we would figure it out," I snapped. "You and me." "Not me, you, and your mom." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then he said quietly, "She means well." I laughed again. That bitter, broken sound I was starting to hate. "God, you keep saying that. Like meaning well makes it okay. It doesn't. You let her bulldoze me in front of everyone. She assumed we were all on the same page. And you let her believe that. That shut him up." "I'm going to Rowan's," I said, opening the door. "Can we at least talk tonight? When things are calmer." I looked him straight in the eye. "You made a choice. Now I'm making mine." Rowan didn't ask questions when I showed up with a duffel bag and puffy eyes. She just handed me a glass of ginger ale, put on some Norah Jones, and let me sit in her tiny kitchen in silence. "I always hated how close he was to her," she said after a while, like she'd been waiting to say it for years. "She's got him on a leash." I rubbed my stomach, feeling the occasional flutter. My son. Our son. What kind of life was I walking him into? "I thought it would get better," I whispered. "That once we had our own life, she'd let go. People like Darlene don't let go. They tighten their grip." The next few days were a blur. Texts from Nolan. Calls. A voicemail from Darlene that started with "Sweetheart, I think we got off on the wrong foot," and ended with "You'll understand when you're a mother." I didn't respond. Rowan helped me make a list. What I needed from the house, what appointments I had coming up, what to say if Nolan showed up. He didn't. At least not at first. But on the 4th day, he knocked on Rowan's door. I opened it slowly, arms crossed. "Can we talk?" he asked, eyes rimmed red. "I'm not ready to come home." "I know. I'm not here to drag you back. I need to explain." I let him in, mostly because Rowan wasn't home, and I didn't want to fight on the porch. He sat on the couch like a stranger in a waiting room. I sat across from him, knees tucked to my chest. "I didn't tell her to say that," he started. "But you agreed to it." Yeah, I did. She asked if she could come help after the baby was born. "I thought it'd take some pressure off you. Off both of us." She said it was non-negotiable. I didn't know she was going to say that. I swear. I stared at him. You gave her permission. Behind my back. He looked down at his hands. I guess I just didn't think it was a big deal. Then you don't know me at all. Silence. He looked up. You're right. I screwed up. I should have told her no. I should have asked you first. I waited. But? No but. Just. I panicked. You've been tired. Stressed. I thought, maybe if she were around, I'd magically stop feeling overwhelmed. I cut in. No. I'd feel worse. Like I was constantly being judged. Second-guessed. Managed. He didn't argue. I'm not a project, I said quietly. And I'm not a child. I'm a grown woman who's about to be someone's mother. I don't need to be babysat by yours. I know. That surprised me. He leaned forward. I know. You're right. I let her get too involved. I always have. She's just always been there, telling me what's best. I guess I forgot how to think without her voice in my head. I didn't say anything. He looked up, eyes pleading. Just come home. We'll set boundaries. I'll talk to her. For real this time. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But trust isn't something you rebuild overnight. And not when the cracks run this deep. The next week, I came back to the house, but only to pack more of my things. Nolan wasn't there. I'd told him not to be. As I moved through the rooms, I saw signs of Darlene everywhere. A stack of must-read baby books on the coffee table. A hand-labeled spice rack in the kitchen. A brand new rocking chair in the nursery that I hadn't picked out. It didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like hers. I grabbed a box and headed into our bedroom. Opened the closet. And there it was, her suitcase. Tucked neatly on Nolan's side. Along with a robe I'd never seen, still in a department store bag. That was it. I sat down on the edge of the bed, held my belly, and let myself cry. I stayed on the bed longer than I meant to. The walls felt like they were pressing in around me, every object in the room another reminder of how little of it I had chosen. Even the bedding was something Darlene picked out as a gift. Seafoam green with embroidered vines. I hated it. I grabbed the suitcase and robe and threw them in the hallway. I didn't care if she came back looking for them. Let her knock. Rowan helped me load the last of my things into her trunk. I left Nolan a note. Nothing long, nothing dramatic. Just came by for my things. Saw the suitcase. Please don't call for a few days. I need space. See. 3 days later, he showed up at Rowan's again. She opened the door this time, her arms crossed in that big sister stance that made grown men regret their choices. She doesn't want to talk to you, she said before he even asked. I just want 5 minutes. Rowan glanced over her shoulder at me. I was sitting at the kitchen table, holding a mug I hadn't sipped from in 20 minutes. I nodded once. 5 minutes, she said, stepping aside like a reluctant bouncer. Nolan stepped in slowly, like he was walking into a confessional. I kicked her out, he said. I blinked. What? Darlene. I told her she couldn't stay with us. That we're doing this on our own. I stared at him, skeptical. She cried, he added. Told me I was ungrateful. Said I'd regret it when I realized how hard it is. And I told her it doesn't matter how hard it is. It's not her baby. That surprised me. He sat down across from me. Not too close. Careful. I should have done it sooner, he said. I've been afraid of disappointing her since I was 10. I forgot you're the one I should have been protecting. A lump formed in my throat. She might still show up. But I changed the locks. And I canceled the extra key. I studied him. He looked tired, older than he had a few weeks ago. But there was something new in his face too. Something softer. Less defensive. I don't know if that fixes anything, I said honestly. He nodded. I don't either. But it's a start. And I'll do whatever it takes. Rowan, still standing in the hallway, coughed. Nolan turned. I should go. Just think about it. I'm always thinking about it, I said. He nodded again, then walked out. That night, Rowan and I made spaghetti and watched reruns of Frasier. Halfway through dinner, I said, do you think people really change? She didn't answer right away. Just twirled her fork. I think people get scared enough to try. I nodded. Do you still love him? She asked quietly. I looked down at my belly. I love what we were. I don't know if I love what we became. That's fair. The room went quiet again except for the canned laughter from the TV. The next few weeks were limbo. Nolan kept his distance but stayed consistent. He called once a week. No pressure. Just updates. He texted me links to articles about parenting, ones I would actually want to read. He asked questions about baby names. He never mentioned his mom. It was weird. He was showing up in a way I'd never seen before, but from a distance. And I liked the distance. At my next ultrasound, he waited outside the clinic until I said it was okay for him to come in. I let him. He held my hand the whole time. When we heard the heartbeat again, he cried. It hurt to watch him love our son. Because part of me wanted to let him back in. And part of me was still standing in that park, hearing him nod to his mother's plan. One afternoon, I was organizing a drawer in Rowan's guest room, trying to find something to control, when my phone buzzed. Nolan. She showed up at the house. My heart dropped. I called him. She knocked for 20 minutes, he said. I didn't answer. She left this huge care package on the porch. What kind of care package? Books. Food. A framed cross-stitch that says baby's first home. I groaned. She's not gonna stop, Nolan. You know that, right? I know. But I'm not opening the door. She's going to get worse before she backs off. I don't care. Let her get worse. There was a pause. I care about you, he said. Silence. And I want to be the kind of dad who stands up for his family. Not the kind who lets his mom run the show. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. But a part of me believed him. For the first time in a long time. That weekend, we met for lunch. Neutral ground. A cafe halfway between Rowan's place and our house. The kind with mismatched chairs and decent sandwiches. We talked about birthing classes, the pediatrician, the registry. And then, somewhere between bites of grilled cheese, I said, if we try again, it's with rules. Nolan nodded. Name them. No unannounced visits. Done. She doesn't get a key. Ever. Gone. Already changed the locks. She doesn't speak for us. Not on social media. Not to friends. Not to strangers at the grocery store. We decide what gets shared. He took a breath. Agreed. And if she tries to cross any of those lines, you deal with it. Immediately. His eyes didn't waver. I will. We weren't back together. Not yet. But we were talking. And more importantly, I was finally being heard. Not placated. Not humored. He wasn't perfect. God knows neither of us were. But he was trying actively. Without being asked. And that mattered. Still, I kept my space. Rowan's place became my bubble. My safe zone. I slept better there. Maybe it was knowing she'd fight for me, even when I didn't feel like fighting for myself. One night, as I rubbed my belly before bed, I whispered to my son, we're gonna figure this out. No matter what. Because if I'd learned anything from Darlene and Nolan and the firestorm of those last few weeks, it was this. I may not have known how to be a mother yet, but I damn well knew how to protect my peace. The weeks turned into months, and my belly grew. Every time I passed a mirror, I'd stop and stare. Part awe, part fear, part disbelief. I was actually doing this. Growing a whole human. Nolan and I stayed in touch. We weren't officially back together, but he showed up for every appointment. He read parenting books. He even built the crib himself, this gorgeous natural wood piece with clean lines and soft curves. He never asked if I was coming back. And I never offered. We needed time. Space. And I needed to know who he was without her always lingering like a mold you thought you scrubbed away, but still found in the grout later. One day, I was at a prenatal yoga class when my phone started blowing up. Milo, you okay? Just saw Darlene's post. Rowan, do not go online right now. I mean it. I sat in the parking lot, sweating, hands shaking, and opened Facebook. There it was. A long, sappy post from Darlene. A selfie of her holding a tiny pair of blue socks and the caption, counting down the days until I become a full-time live-in grandma. Little Levi is already so loved. Nolan and I can't wait to raise this beautiful boy together in our cozy home. #blessed, #family first, #modern parenting. I swear my vision went red. She'd posted photos from inside the house. My house. Photos of our nursery. The one I hadn't even finished decorating. She called it her special space for baby. And Nolan, he had liked the post. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I took a screenshot. Then I called my lawyer. Yep. I had gotten one. Not because I wanted to start a war, but because something inside me knew I needed leverage. I wasn't going to be the passive wife who got steamrolled and then sent inspirational quotes to her group chat about boundaries. We drafted a parenting agreement with specific language. No third-party live-ins without consent from both parents. No social media sharing about the child without mutual approval. Any breach could result in reevaluation of custody arrangements. I emailed it to Nolan with the subject line, "We need to talk." He called 10 minutes later, frantic. "Kelly, I didn't know she posted that." "I swear. I wasn't with her, but you liked it." "I didn't read it. I just saw the socks. I was at work." I clicked and look, "I'm sorry. Really sorry. She said you were raising the baby together." "I never said that. I've told her a dozen times she's not living with us." I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, "Then prove it." The next weekend, Nolan and I met at his place. I brought the document. "She's out of control," I said simply. "This isn't just annoying anymore. It's dangerous. She's telling people she's raising our son. What happens when he's actually here and she doesn't get her way?" He read the agreement quietly. Then he nodded. "I'll sign it. And she needs to know it's real. That these are consequences, not suggestions." "I'll tell her." "No," I said. "We'll tell her. Together." The following Sunday, I invited Darlene to brunch. At her favorite overpriced tea house in Cherry Creek. The place with the fancy little sandwiches and gold-rimmed china. She showed up in a bright blue dress and pearls. Smiled like this was just a girl's day out. "Oh, sweetheart, you look radiant," she said, reaching for my belly. I stepped back. "Let's sit." She blinked but followed. Nolan was already there. Silent. Waiting. "What's going on?" she asked, looking between us. "I want to be very clear," I said. "You will not be living with us. You will not be raising our child. You will not be making announcements on our behalf." Her smile faded. "I don't know what you think I said." "You said everything, Darlene," I snapped. "You've crossed every line. You've invaded my privacy, hijacked my pregnancy, and lied about our plans to everyone you know. That ends now." I was just excited. "You were controlling, manipulative. And worse, you didn't care how it made me feel." Nolan slid the document across the table. "What is this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "A parenting agreement," he said. "We're setting legal boundaries." She picked it up, scanned it, and her face went pale. "You're siding with her?" "I'm siding with our child," he said, voice firm. "With our family. Not your fantasy version." Darlene looked like she might faint. "You don't mean this." "I do," I said. "We both do. You will be a grandmother, if and when you're invited to be. Not a co-parent. Not a roommate. And not a narrator of our lives." She stood up, trembling. "You're turning him against me." "No, Darlene," I said, standing too. "He's just finally waking up." She stormed out, knocking over her teacup on the way. Neither of us followed. Levi was born 2 weeks early. The labor was long, messy, and not at all like the water birth in a tub with gentle heart music videos I'd watched. But he was perfect. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Dark hair, strong lungs, tiny hands that clenched my finger like he already knew what we'd fought through to meet each other. Nolan was there. He held my hand, wiped my forehead, whispered, "You're amazing," between every contraction. Darlene wasn't. She texted Nolan. Called. Left voicemails. Demanded updates. He sent her one picture. Just one. A photo of Levi in his hospital bassinet, swaddled in a blanket I had picked out, wearing a little beanie that said, "Hello, world." She replied, "When can I come?" He never answered. 3 weeks after we got home, I mailed out Levi's birth announcements. I sent one to everyone who had supported us. Rowan, Milo, my OB, my neighbor who brought over muffins during the pregnancy. And I sent one to Darlene. No message. Just the announcement and a printed copy of the parenting agreement, highlighted, with a post-it that said, "Still non-negotiable." That was the last time she tried to insert herself. Turns out, some people need the law to learn respect.